But here's what's really important to me. When you take away nitpicks about the story, thoughts about the characters, and if it fits into canon, which is all basically just fan stuff, there is very...
Fan stuff?
That is
what even else is there? Like, what's left after you take all that out?
World building, the story, characters, plot, consistency, logical consistency. That's just fan shit.
Well, it's like, if he means, like, by fan, he means people who care about it, then I guess, you know, people who don't care about it aren't going to care about that stuff. Why would you make a film for people who don't care about it?
It's just a baffling comment.
That is wild. That is out there.
And I can't remember.
It's just saying all the things that matter.
Just consume product and get excited about next product. Everything else is just fan stuff.
Why would you even be watching it if you weren't a fan?
Does he not consider himself a fan?
I'm pretty sure he does. Well, this is the thing.
Objective.
He made a tweet saying that he's the only person who thinks it's a bad idea to resurrect Palpatine because it'll kind of undo all of what they achieved in Episode 6. And I was just looking at that like,
that's just fan
stuff. Why do you care?
Hang on, that's the point where he's like, hang on. To be
Like,
fair, that is the point. That is the point that like woke a load of people up to it, and you're like, yeah, that's what I've been saying for quite a long time.
I wonder what he's going to move on to say then, because obviously if that's fan stuff, then what should we be addressing?
Canon, which is all basically just fan stuff. There is very little that I have to say about how this movie was actually bad. Visually,
the visuals and the score.
Well, so he said if you remove all that stuff, there's very little for him to say about what's actually bad, and it's like removed all of it.
All of it.
You took away 80%.
Okay, he said nitpicks about the story, so if we assume that he doesn't think there are any significant problems with the story, which isn't true, but let's just assume that, then I guess he's saying the story holds up.
I think that he's saying that any criticism of the story is a nitpick.
Pretty much, probably.
Yeah.
It's just
I think he probably thinks that any criticism that he's seen, which he fucking knows what that is, he considers a nitpick, even if it's not.
Yeah, this is early 2018. Maybe he hadn't heard much, but I still don't believe that he thinks TLJ is that bad at all. I think he'd probably say they're nitpicks. If you remember, me and Rags have had this several times. The one that comes to mind the most is like, I think we were talking to Billy the Fridge on Drunken Peasants, and we were talking about the fuel fiasco creating the entire plot, how much it doesn't make any sense at all, and there's so many different things they have to forget about in order for it to run. And he was like, okay, but that's like really nitpicky. We were
what we asked him was why didn't they just hyperdrive a ship in front of the Raddus?
And you know, there's more than just that though. There's like the fact that the small ships are faster than big ships. It's like, so just send out an army of TIE fighters then. Because
we know that TIE fighters can catch up to them because they did.
There's the whole.
They have like thousands of TIE fighters.
They can have the Millennium Falcon and the transport ship hyperspace in and out of the whole thing. So it's like, so when you ferry your 400 remaining people out, you could probably, like, a fair guess, you could probably fit, I want to say 100 people on a Millennium Falcon. What do you guys reckon?
But guys, it's a children's movie about space wizards.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be good to make sense.
Why do you care about this nerd stuff?
Well, that's the thing. You explain all that, and they're like, "That's just nitpicks." And I'm like, "So what's the serious stuff then? What's the plot breaking stuff to you?" And it's just like
the themes.
Nothing in which I think is serious except the underlying meta narrative.
I think the fucking themes are broken too, though.
The movie are the good parts.
I mean, I will say this. You know, George Lucas, to some degree, knew and worked with Joseph Campbell, the man who wrote The Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Oh, the soup guy.
Kill me. But he was the writer of The Hero with 1,000 Faces, The Hero's Journey kind of stuff. He's the one who basically popularized that concept. And Lucas knew him. So when people tried to truncate Star Wars down into it just being a sci-fi version of the hero's journey, they're not completely wrong in that it is where that comes out of. In that Lucas, I don't know exactly how much it was his role and his understanding of Campbell and how much other people saved the original films. Obviously, nobody really does. But it was based on a very simple hero's journey cycle. It doesn't mean that's all that was there. That
doesn't even mean it's bad.
Because, well, no, it's not bad.
Just 'cause
It's
it's bad
core
doesn't
Yeah,
mean
humanity.
that's what I'm saying. It's
It's
simple.
core
It can be
humanity.
totally good. In fact, I
Yes.
think all the time Mahler and I are like, yeah, maybe just have a simple story that makes sense instead of a complicated one that's just shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Joseph Campbell's talking about. Is he's saying that humans basically, he was a comparative mythologist. He said that humans only have so many numbers of stories that we can tell, and simple is better for that reason. And ultimately, no matter how original Desi you try to be, your story is going to be copying someone else's to some degree. We know this happens all the time. My point through all of this is that I just it was not every young adult children's book that doesn't sell more than a couple thousand copies tells the hero's journey. What made Star Wars interesting is not the most basic themes. It's the universe that was built around it and the intrigue and the characters and all that stuff. If it was just the most basic theme, the hero myth, then it would be no more powerful than any other hero myth story.
It's like the paint.
Yeah, but they say the devil's in the details, and all those details add up.
Yeah, it's we talked about this before, but like, what creates stakes? It's our understanding of the rules, and if you break those rules, the stakes obliterate. Like, they're just gone. How am I supposed to care about a space chase when you guys don't even care about the fact that you've already highlighted several ways to destroy them and you don't seem to notice? I'm just sitting here like, okay, so they're in danger right now. They should be dead, but why should I care?
Whatever.
Yeah, and so you have to often discuss with people to try and break down what exactly is the significant and the insignificant. And you do find a lot of people say plot, characters, small little inconsistencies are irrelevant compared to the overall message that failure can be the greatest. Very emotionally appealing, but it can still be broken down mechanically.
Especially if you're a failure.
Well, I mean, a lot of people reference the movie as like, look how much it failed, and yet we can learn from it.
Wow, that's like that. What level of meta are you on, my dude?
I just want Ryan to reveal that's why he said there's nothing wrong with this film, because he's like, yeah, that was all the point of it. I designed.
I'm trying to
mistakes.
teach myself a lesson about filmmaking that failure is the greatest teacher.
Gorgeous and wonderful, really.
Just fan stuff. There is very little that I have to say about how this movie was actually bad. Visually, the film is stunning. The score leaves you breathless, and the actors consistently give the performances of a lifetime.
Yeah, so the actors, the music.
But
visuals.
I mean,
all of those things were good in TLJ.
Oh, well.
Well, some of the actors.
I'm not a fan of Daisy's acting for the most part.
I agree with that.
I find it.
I feel like she's competent. Like, she's
competent, but you know what? I don't actually think it's her problem. I think it's the writing.
She's
only given like two. She only has like two emotions to express, like being upset, kind of, or being
mild
excited.
Concern with mouth open. Yeah.
How do you bring that character to life? She hasn't got a character.
Mild excitement with mouth ajar, or mild concern with mouth ajar. There's really nothing else.
It's just jars. Just jars.
Mark Hamill was great. I liked him throughout. Played the depressing, wanting to kill himself Luke Skywalker brilliantly, which is a shame.
The one we all know and love.
Rhiann really wanted him to be. Yep.
Then we got Kylo, or I've forgotten his real name. Damn, brain's melting. What is Kylo's real name? Adam Driver, that's it.
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. Ben Shapiro.
He's very emotive.
He is. He's not. I don't think he's a bad actor, as far as I've seen.
And then, yes,
he's great in a lot of stuff. I say a lot of stuff. I've only seen him in Black Klansman, but he's good in that.
Poe's alright. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I think we're always gonna try and come back to like, it's the material though. It's like the actors can only.
Right.
Yeah, TLJ is like, man, is it the actor or is it just a shitty script and Ryan Johnson telling him you have to do it like this?
And then as for like the music, go ahead.
You can't. You know what I mean? If you give actors nothing to work with, it doesn't matter which actor you give it to if there's nothing there. It's like the Doctor Who thing. If you don't give them anything to work with, it doesn't matter how good of an actor they are.
Yeah, they're supposed to do what the director sees in his head, basically. And if the director is just terrible, then he's going to say that, oh, that take that you did, that was excellent. That's the part that we're keeping, even if it was poo-poo.
lot of what people say is the problem with the prequels is that a lot of the acting is wooden.
Hello there.
Like the
I don't think that's wooden.
The level of acting talent that you've got in those films shows the importance of a good director. Because what like this fucking Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, who else is in that? Samuel L. Jackson, all playing blocks of wood.
Right.
Liam Neeson as well.
Negro.
I think it suits Liam Neeson more than it did Samuel L. Jackson. We wanted to.
Liam Neeson does well.
But yeah. Then as for the music, I've said this before, but some of the best tracks are all just from the older movies. So I don't know how much it counts.
Yeah. It's the same leitmotifs. You can't count it as new scores.
Leitmotif.
And then visuals, you're like, oh, well, I mean, Prometheus is pretty awesome looking too.
Oh yeah, Prometheus looks great.
I really hate the way that TLJ looks. I even like when I first saw it and didn't think it was that bad. I still like the fit. I just didn't like how it looked. Like it was technically competent, but I was like, yeah, it's ugly. I don't know why.
It's Hollywood D.
How dare you, Jay? Explain your position.
And I promise Hollywoody isn't a trans slur or anything.
It feels like it's just trying so hard to be like, whoa, look how good this looks. It's got like the red being kicked up from under the salt, and I'm like, wow, they're really trying to make an iconic shot here, aren't they?
I guess
like,
I could agree.
Ryan filmed this going, oh, people are going to remember this for years.
Yes, they will.
Do you know what
might say instead of they'll remember it for years, they'll never be able to.
Like the ground is bleeding as the battle breaks out. War hurts the world. That's what it means.
This is sort of a battle, right?
What's so fucking interesting about that is that why do people remember the scenes that are iconic that The Force Awakens completely stole? Why do they remember all those scenes? You know, the two sons. And why was it? Was it because...
Why would they remember that?
Would it be because they were special effects that really blew people's minds? Or was it because there was an emotional attachment to the story and the characters? I don't know. Jeez. It really makes me think.
Well, I mean, you know, it worked for a lot of people. It clearly worked for Quinton. He's referencing it literally as why the film is wrong at the expense of all of the writing. Like, except probably the theme. I'm pretty sure he's going to say the theme was great.
I'm sure.
So why is it commonly considered to be a terrible movie? Well, for some odd reason, it's become a meme that the movie is bad.
What an odd reason.
Oh.
A meme?
Odd reason.
What are these memes that you speak of?
Does he think that people hate it because to hate it is a fun meme?
Because we would rather hate Star Wars than love it?
It's because we're on the dark side.
Very confused by
We're on the
this.
dark side of internet commentary.
So I just did some... Oh, sorry. Really quickly, I just did a bunch of research on this, on specifically why consumer love becomes consumer hate. And it turns out every single time, based on like decades of research, the people who will come to hate the thing the most are the people who previously loved it the most. Because you give your time, your money, and your emotional support towards a brand, whatever it be. And as a result, when you feel betrayed, you're way more betrayed than someone who didn't really give a shit.
Yeah, we've highlighted that today.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You had an investment.
Yeah, so one of my hated
how can you
memes.
Really hate something if you're not invested in it.
Exactly. I was going to move on to say like the thing people say in videos. Usually, when defending the newer movies, they'll be like, "Nobody hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans," and then the chat or the comment section are like, "Oh, that's actually really clever." Yeah. It seems like fans hate it the most, which is so ironic. And it's like, no, that makes complete sense.
No, it's the opposite of irony.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, just his whole thing of this is, it's just for the meme. It's just for, it's all just a joke. No, it's an actual emotional response to the shit that make people mad about it.
Oh.
That's just...
I mean, I could tell you, the reason it pissed me off, rather than I could just ignore it, was the Luke portion of it. I was actually like, it's like, I like this guy. I'm very invested in this guy. What did you do to this guy? Like that, it feels like a direct hit to the heart sort of thing. And it's the same with, a lot of content. And then there's a lot of content that you might, like Jay showing me that Doctor Who episode. I'm just sitting there like, like, I don't care.
Yeah, I see. And I had to show you that because I couldn't watch it on my own because it was genuinely making me so unhappy.
Yeah.
What a pussy.
Just sit And I'm like, I fucking need help to see this. Like, I need to see it through. But
that's how I feel Mahler was with Game of Thrones.
Oh,
like, Rex, I need you to understand my hatred. I need you to understand this with me.
No. Okay, well, this will be my last note on this. I loved the last season of Game of Thrones, and it's only because I love the books, and I've loved the books for a very long time, and I have been suffering for years through this TV show that was not going in the way that I knew it should have been going, and then everyone else got to feel sad like me, so that was a cool thing.
That's kind of fucked up, but all right.
People noticed in my video, they're like, I don't think he's been this angry before. Episode 3, I was so pissed. Nobody hates Game of Thrones like Game of Thrones fans.
Can you believe people who don't even know it exists don't give a shit?
Yeah, I like the idea that someone's like, I fucking hate.
Just going straight to hate it.
Yeah, someone's like, I hate that new season of Game of Thrones. It's like, oh yeah, why? It's like, well, I've never seen TV before, even, but that got to me, that season.
Well, also, it's like, did you ever hear about this Hitler fellow? I was like, no. I was like, he killed 6 million Jews. Like, holy shit, I kind of hate this guy.
The only reason to hate something that you're not previously invested in is if it encroaches on something you are invested in.
Yeah,
so
like Jews.
So you could really hate them. Yeah, sure.
I mean, that makes sense.
So, like say a movie has a message that you fundamentally disagree with and find repugnant. Like, even if you weren't invested in that series before, you would hate that film.
Absolutely.
It would. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends on how it's bad.
Well, yeah, like I hated
low
Interstellar.
Quality isn't enough.
And Interstellar's its own thing. Like, I got pissed off separately to some kind of franchise or anything.
If TLJ was just its own standalone movie without a series backing it up, I don't think many people would really care about it. But I don't think you'd get that.
Nah.
I don't think people would think it was good, but you wouldn't get that same emotional response negatively to it.
Yeah, it would just be it would be like a one and done summer sci-fi movie that everyone forgets about.
Yeah, it's like Mortal Engines was bad, but no one gives a shit about Mortal Engines. So they don't
Mortal Engines you should give a shit about only because I think it's the biggest financial failure of any film ever at this point.
Oh, dude, it lost an insane amount of money.
That's just a good, like, you know, if you were trying to write a book on how not to make a movie, it should just be
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines.
No marketing though. That's why any film that's marketed, people will go see it. I find.
Will it work for EFAP movies, Rex?
It might. That's the thing. It's not all terrible. Like, there's a really good movie buried deep in there somewhere, yearning to break free. But man, that movie is a mess. And the thing is, it looks expensive. Like, you see that movie, and you're like, this ain't no cheap
how much
production.
it cost.
A good $1 billion.
I want to highlight, by the way, somebody said this in chat a little bit further back, but
it cost $100 million.
$100 million.
No way.
It's not as much as I thought it would be.
No way.
It's still a decent amount of money.
No, of course, but like, I don't know. I expected more. Anyway, but Quinton says he's like, people hate this for some reason, while also highlighting seconds ago there are several problems with. Even if he says it's just fan stuff, it's like, so you've highlighted why the fans would be angry then?
Oh, okay, so this is why fans would hate it. Okay, gotcha.
Kind of weird, but, you know, whatever, Quinton. Keep going.
Okay. Movie. Well, for some odd reason, it's become a meme that the movie is bad. In the same way that it's a meme
he doesn't like memes.
But, like, you can probably find a lot of things on Know Your Meme. I feel like you can find a lot of movies on there. Like, that wouldn't make it a meme to hate it. It's very strange.
It's a meme.
I really hate to use this because I've even made a video like debunking it as a concept, but he is the NPC meme. You know what I mean? Like, he really just is. This is a thing that it's you're supposed to like now because you're a contrarian, and this is the orange man who is bad. It's very scripted style shit. So that's why, like, he's like memes because memes are bad. And that's just. It's following a script, a weird psychological script, but
I believe it.
I'd love to see a video from him explaining why memes are bad. I'm kidding. I would never like to see that.
Taste good. And the internet making fun of the movie has led to people looking for reasons to hate it, in the same way that people joking that Tide Pods taste good.
Really, does he
Yeah, but
honestly,
Tide Pods are bad for you.
does he honestly believe
oh.
that people would just like, I don't like this thing, I need to go find reasons to hate it? Or worse, there's memes about disliking it, I need to go dislike it before I can join in on the memes.
Or
So
people
it's
are
very
like, why are people
important
saying that? And then they see why, and they're like, oh.
What, does correlation
stories were
equal
true.
causation, Quinton? That's the big question,
Answer to
right?
that is yes. 100% all
Oh,
of
so
the
they're
time.
correlated. So I know the direction in which things happen. Wouldn't it make more sense, as you guys said, wouldn't it make more sense that the movie's shit, so people went online to make fun of it, rather than people thought the movie was great and then went online and saw memes and changed their fucking opinion? Which one is more logical?
I'll tell you this.
Well, I can tell you about human psyche. One of them doesn't make a lot of sense.
It rained the day that this movie came out, so as long as Rian Johnson releases a film, we can cause rain. That's pretty scientific, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes
Can't
sense.
fight that
He
one.
depresses the universe when he releases
He
things.
depresses the universe.
The world
He is
cries.
the black hole of critics.
You made the sky cry? Why would you do this?
The gods shed their tears of displeasure.
It's led to people poisoning themselves out of irony. Once again, I think that The Last
that what
Jedi
irony
has
is?
potential.
Yeah.
They poison themselves out of irony. As in... I'm trying to... Does that make sense? I'm trying to think about...
Wait, hang on. Are we out of sync at the moment? Where are you guys?
We're talking about irony.
Let's listen
That's
to his
ironic.
sentence again.
I'm in North Little Rock.
Fun of the
Hang on,
movie
what-
has led to people looking for reasons to hate it, in the same way that people joking that Tide Pods taste good has led to people poisoning themselves out of irony.
Well, the point he's making
Out of
is just that-
irony.
So, like,
point-
they
the point he's
said, I'm gonna
making-
eat this
No.
even though it's supposed to kill me, and then it
No,
did.
no,
That's ironic.
those people didn't know that it was. I mean, the people who actually ate the Tide Pods were troglodytes. Okay, I mean, I'm just saying, like, maybe they deserved to win the Darwin Award. I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying, throwing it out there as an option. But the people who actually ate Tide Pods didn't do it ironically, Quinton. They did it because they were so stupid that they didn't know what's
No,
going to kill
stupidity
them.
is irony.
Oh,
I don't think he would disagree with that. I don't think he'd disagree that it's not stupid to eat the Tide Pods. I think they were just like doing it as a joke.
Do we have an
But then
issue
they
with what the
realized
word
it was
irony
dumb.
means and how people
because that's
constantly
no,
misuse
because
it?
irony means that you would have to be aware
It wa-
Well, no,
of being like,
you,
you'd
I-
be like,
you have to be aware that it's not
gonna
a
kill
smart thing
myself,
to do.
fam.
But I don't think you have to be aware that, like, you can do it ironically on the level of, oh, this isn't a food, but I'm going to eat it anyway.
Yeah, what if it's just curiosity where like it's bad, but you're curious about what, is it actually
to
how detrimental
ironically
is
eat
it?
it.
Like Rule
It would-
34.
To ironically eat it would not be the kind of stuff that resulted in people going, "Oh God, I'm dying." To ironically eat it would be like, "Haha, gonna eat some Tide Pods, fam," and then eat it and record yourself dying on stream while like fucking throwing up OK signs and T-posing. I mean, that would be ironic.
Hey, I
That sounds
T-pose. I T-pose. There's nothing wrong with T-pose.
I don't.
But I think that the most people who actually did it were just too
I was gonna say, I
stupid
thought
to realize you
the
shouldn't
people
eat
who
Tide
did
Pods.
it were just unaware of what Tide Pods really did. They were just like,
Yeah.
lol, yeah, I'll eat one because everyone's talking about.
Well,
eating
remember
them.
all the people who microphoned their
You can't have
iPhones
just
thinking it would
one.
charge it up?
Right.
Exactly. People are stupid. It always
People
comes
are
back to this.
stupid.
It always comes back to this cognitive miser thing. Like, people aren't actually stupid, but we only have always comes back to the cognitive miser shit. Our brains take up a whole lot of energy. We want to try to reduce that energy so our bodies can do all the other stuff they're supposed to do. This means that sometimes we won't think and we'll put our iPhones in the microwave. Okay? That's just the outcome.
Yeah, just to clarify then, the person who does not know it will kill you is eating it because they find it a part of a funny meme, and then they go, "Oh God, it's killing me." I don't think that would be irony, or they wouldn't have taken it ironically there.
That's not irony, because to be ironic, the person doing it has to be aware that it's ironic, aware of why it's funny. I think that if you killed yourself by eating a Tide Pod out of stupidity, that's not ironic. That's just sad.
You're just a dumbass. We have this meme going where like you say something happened and then you just say it's ironic at the end because Just Right did it with loads of things. We're just like someone fucking shoots themselves in the
he has
head.
like a
ironic.
20% success rate on identifying irony, so it's not very good.
And I think a lot of people, and I'm not saying that I haven't done this, but you might point out something that seems funny and then you just go, huh, ironic. Then you'd be like, wait, that's not ironic at all. It's just funny.
You're like, no, that's the opposite of irony. Like that makes sense.
Once again, I think that The Last Jedi has potential flaws, and I'm going to discuss them. But I see
Potential
those flaws
flaws.
as tangential in
Just
nature.
potential.
And while I find it amazingly easy to script out numerous pages of constructive criticism about the nature
I'm sure
of the
you
plot,
had numerous pages.
I'm sure his
Numerous
criticism is
pages.
constructive. He's just implying everyone else's as being mean or something.
But here's the thing. Also, his is so good, he had to write it out because it was that other part was not important enough.
It's like I just went ahead and wrote it all out, but I'm not gonna. It's not even. No, I
wanna
wouldn't
see
even
that
worry
video.
about it.
I
Really,
wanna
I just
see
went ahead and
him
wrote out for
I'd
funsies.
like,
Say the
let's
things
see
he
the
thinks the
constructive
problems.
criticism.
I would too.
That'd be an important thing to include in a review, I would think.
Yeah, the flaws. Like, don't worry about it. They're just all the problems are just tangential. You know, the plot, the story, the characters.
I mean, this makes me sad. The amount of people who are involved in making this successful.
Oh, it is sad. That is the saddest thing about all of this.
This has no bearing on my enjoyment of the product in question. This is still a really good movie, and rewatching it has
Wow.
only made me feel more strong.
And to clarify, because he thinks the objective thing is bullshit, what he means when he says that is, I still think I really like it. But, you know, you can't say that in a review because it doesn't sound very good, does it? Like, I've seen all this and I still like it. It sounds like you're making concessions, but if you say it's still good, people think like, oh, so you think it does actually reach a standard while also failing in certain places. But
The thing is, it's fine, and I think everyone would be okay with it if people just came out and said, I like it, I
Yeah.
don't care why. Because there's tons of things that most of us like that we don't
we don't need to
like
know
for
why.
lots of reasons.
Alien
You
versus
know?
Predator.
I love that
God.
movie. EFAP movies.
Oh yeah, that's an EFAP movies right there. I'll make a note. We should do that soon.
It is not a good movie, but it is
It is
brilliant.
so
But
wonderfully
everybody
terrible.
has everybody has stuff like that. Just don't pretend like you're being objective. If you claim to be objective, then you're going to be held to a different standard than if you're claiming
He's
that
not
you're
claiming
like,
to be
I like the
objective.
thing. I think he
He's
calls
claiming
himself
to be on the
Quinton
right side of
Reviews.
history.
Quinton,
and he's
Quinton
he
rambles.
is-
It should be.
okay. So the name of this video, right, is the Last Jedi that bad? Quinton Reviews. That kind of implies it's a review.
Well,
Which-
have you heard what his definition of a review is?
Oh no,
Oh.
what is it?
Rax,
my
go ahead.
Oh
goodness.
no.
Oh my.
A
how have I missed
review
this?
is just a description of your experience.
Sucks because at that point, like, a review could be, that is broad. Not that review isn't broad anyway, but wow.
Well, as someone who's done peer reviews of academic literature, let's
No,
just
just
say
what did
no.
you feel about the research?
What did you feel?
Well, you know what?
What
I
did the
was
research make you
sitting there,
feel?
I was bored because I've been reading shit all night, and I felt bored. Honestly, it wasn't that interesting. No good. I didn't have enough to drink that night. What
Looks
the
like a
hell
review
kind
to
of
me.
shit is this? What?
Oh,
That's a very interesting definition of review. Is all
Yeah.
I'll say. Interesting definition.
Strongly about this. The movie starts out with a huge space battle between the rebellion and the New Order. And my
Huge.
I'm gonna say it's one of the smaller ones, isn't it?
Absolutely huge.
In all the
It's like
Star Wars
one
battles, it's like,
fatty ship.
yeah, it's one big ship and several smaller ships. It's probably one of the smaller scale ones in all of Star Wars. I guess it's because even the one with the Millennium Falcon in the Empire is probably bigger in terms of those several Star Destroyers flying around, TIE fighters, and the Millennium. I'm being a little bit petty here, but I just find it. He's being flowery, is my point. It's like it's a huge battle between blah, and it's like, yeah, all right, calm down.
God, space battles in Star Wars are insanely boring to me.
Oh,
You can obviously tell
okay.
that the choreography in Star Wars is heavily inspired by the battles of the First and Second World Wars.
Well,
Except
they
that
are
the
now.
warships-
Apparently, they are now. I don't know. Did they
I heard
used to
were
be as well?
originally. I
I
heard
don't-
they were. I don't know how accurate that is, but I've definitely.
Yeah, I certainly don't
They
get
were
that
always
vibe from them.
inspired. It's
that.
just the degree of inspiration, I suppose. Because
maybe that's the issue.
the whole dropping
They don't
bombs
seem
on a
to play.
target is obviously very like, oh, it's like Earth battles now in World War II. You're like, yeah, kind of. While I'd say in the earlier, well, the OT, like the designs had inspiration, perhaps the tactics. I'd have to look into it more deeply, but I got a full sense of when the bombs were being drawn out in the payload thing in TLJ. I was like, wow, they've gone really far this time. They even have like the gunners that look almost like the ones from stuff I've
the
seen.
little ball turrets.
Before it would have been inspired by it, but they would have known which parts to include and which parts not to include because of putting something in a
Space.
different context. It's not always going to work as a one-to-one translation.
Can you just imagine a floating aircraft carrier in space? It's like, it's inspired by World War II.
Yeah, and that's not, we don't accept that as like an
just a
excuse.
biplane.
Because you get a lot of that.
Biplanes. It's inspired by World War I, guys.
You can point out a problem or whatever, and they'll be like, don't you get it? It's based on blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that doesn't address what I said at all. But
So that's why
you
it's
have
shit.
to go. Anytime you would have to go outside of a piece of media to understand why it's outside of like general cultural knowledge, and this excludes comedy, I would say, because comedy is extremely culturally linked. But if a piece of media is so specific that it can't be enjoyed, then that is going to be a detriment to the enjoyment, because if it requires cultural knowledge.
I mean, especially
So,
if you, it's not even to make you understand, it's to make you ignore how it doesn't function in this new format or this new environment. Because all they're saying is, but it's from this. You're like, yeah.
But who would
yeah.
know that, and how many people would actually be able to get that reference or understand it? That's not going to be, that information or meaning will not be relayed to the general public.
Like, imagine two fat guys in a Star Wars universe. They have a fight on like the plane of a spaceship out in space with no suits. They're just fighting, and you go, it's a reference to sumo wrestlers. And you're like, yeah, but this is space.
Was it like, I wonder like how far away from the actual from like, okay, because so clearly there's like some degree of like difference between a space battle and a World War II like dogfight. I wonder to what degree you have to remove like the thing that you're basing it on before these people realize, okay, yeah, it doesn't actually work. Like, oh no, the ship has to be like that because it's based on a guy taking a shit in the toilet. So that's why it's like that.
Like an anus appears on the Star Destroyer and just takes a space shit.
Yeah, like you see, it's good because it mirrors this thing in real life.
You know how you
there's
poop
just
in real
water
life? Wow.
that they're sailing through it with these ships in space. You're like, why is this big pile of water in space? It's like the World War II when they fought in the war.
Galaxy's a massive toilet
Not
bowl.
even just that. Not even just that. It's like the sea. You know how there's a sea in real life? It's like that.
Remember the sea?
Are there like whales, like space whales, just kind of floating around in the floating
I like this idea.
mass
we should
out of
patent it.
gravity?
Space whales in the space sea. In
Space ocean.
Float and the biplanes have weird wings. And while this gimmick surely was well executed
No, it
at
wasn't.
first, I think after the 9th Star Wars film, you'd think
Oh, I
they could
thought
be
you
a little
meant
more
that.
creative about it. There's this scene at the start of the movie where we're introduced to the concept of spaceships that drop bombs. You know, like World War II bomber planes, except in space. Now, I know that technically the ships of the Star Wars universe obviously have their own artificial gravity, meaning that if you were to drop an object within the ship and then allow it to float into space, that the item would continue to plummet. But my point is that there's this certain lack of creativity that has to come from trying to think of what a battle in space would be.
Well,
Those are
hang
planes,
on.
Quinton.
But also, what reason are we not given to believe that as rockets are and bombs are in modern fighter jets, that there's a propulsion system in them? I see no evidence that that's not the case in Star Wars. That they're being dropped physically by gravity, which seems to be what he's implying.
Yeah, which we actually.
I guess he's trying to make it work.
Well, the other
Sort of, but
the
it
most
doesn't
common
work, and
defense.
he's saying it doesn't work.
The most common defense is the whole magnets thing, right? That they're propelled out by magnetisms.
Well, that's from a book somewhere that says things, right?
Right. But
Most
even.
books.
But even so, okay. This is not okay. Is this nerd shit? Me saying that, fires, as much as we've seen explosions and shit in Star Wars, like fire can't actually exist in outer space. If you want to see like a fire rocket trail behind it, that actually wouldn't make sense.
Unless it's like ejecting some kind of like leaking some kind of fuel behind it or something.
Yeah. So actually, I just never had a problem believing that it was that because okay.
Because it doesn't affect the plot, first off.
No, it doesn't affect the plot, and it has no. Well, I guess you could say in the first film, but it's made to be clear that at the end of the film that Luke uses the Force to be able to do this, and it's this one small thing, like a tiny little bit of moving or redirecting the rocket, instead of a gigantic.
Well, it's the trail itself that doesn't impact anything.
Right.
If it was just a little light, essentially, of the internals of the rocket propelling itself, then it would have done the exact same thing.
I just don't think that I don't think it's the same thing. I don't think there's any real indication that it's supposed to be like dropping it via gravity. If he's trying to make a logical point here about
people are just confused anyway. It's like, why drop bombs that way when it puts you in such a vulnerable position instead of firing them like we've always done?
Shoot them from a distance, like missiles that exist.
You might be like, well, they could shoot them down. They could put TIE fighters in the way, and it's like, yeah, or you could just blow up with your stupid other plan. They do.
It's like imagining a World War II movie where they have hand grenades and they've like got a new battle tactic. If they pull the pin on the grenade, then walk up to the enemy they want to blow up with it, like tape it to them, and then walk away. And that's the new system of delivering grenades.
It's just like the Taliban.
I would just recommend them do what we learned at the end of the film, which is just have a ship that's just piled with explosives and hyperdrive it into the big ship. Done.
Don't even need the explosives. Fuck it.
Use a droid. Put it on autopilot if you have to. Whatever. Done.
Use C-3PO.
Yes. Use C-3PO.
He's had his time.
Time to be a hero you were always meant to be.
And putting it in space. Given that most of the battles in Star Wars are very much traditional in a 20th century fashion, then the invention of the Death Star in Episode 4 itself is a clear allegory for the invention of weapons of mass destruction. This is the turning point in human conflict, something that totally changed the face of enemy forces in an instant.
This isn't about the Last Jedi.
Not so far. I guess he's getting there.
Oh, you just now notice.
He's getting there, I'm sure of it.
30 years after the invention of the atomic bomb, the dictionary definition of a war had been rewritten from the ground up. But 30 years later in the Star Wars universe, it's all kind of the same. In between episodes 6 and 7, the rebellion has been in total power for 3 decades. But you wouldn't be able to guess that. Since the original.
I don't disagree.
Let's ask a question about that.
Slightly different shaped vents on them.
Let's ask some questions about that.
It's evolved. It's gotten worse.
Excuse me. He even calls them the rebellion. The rebellion has been in power for 30 years.
Rebellion against.
Maybe they like being the underdogs.
We're still the underdogs. How are you in power if you're the rebellion?
The fundamental Force Awakens question.
This is the eternal communist question, I guess.
Trilogy. You can't shake the feeling that the rebellion must have done nothing for 30 years for them to be overtaken this easily by some rogue terrorist group. The fact that every other Star Wars movie seems to be about them trying to stop the bad guys from inventing nukes easily signals that no one really seems to have a lot of big ideas about how to talk about war but in space. And I'm bringing all of that up because despite the fact that it annoys me, it doesn't ruin the fun.
It's a great film then.
That's fine for him. That doesn't ruin his fun.
It's bad writing. It's bad writing, but I had fun.
It doesn't make sense, but...
All right, then.
All right.
Remember in my last review when I said that the prequels are bad because the characters constantly lose the respect of the audience, while the universe seems to stay relatively consistent? Well, in the case of the sequel trilogy, it's the exact
Except the characters aren't consistent either.
I think he likes them.
No.
Sorry.
He likes him. It doesn't bother him. It doesn't ruin the fun, Jay.
Sorry, he likes it.
Like you and your thoughts do.
My thoughts.
Oh.
Your thoughts.
Jay's army of thoughts.
Be gone.
Consistent? Well, in the case of the sequel trilogy, it's the exact opposite. The universe is now contrived, without consistency, scale, or even the ability to not feel like a broken record. But none of this really matters when you're watching the film, because what you've actually come to see is the characters.
Because you can turn your brain off.
Doesn't it matter how the characters get to places and are able to make decisions or experience events?
No,
he's literally just talking about his own experience. He's like, it didn't matter to me, but he's like saying it as if it's universally true.
The question to Quinton would then be, it's like, okay, so after the scene where he blows up here, Leia. Kylo goes into the ship, and then he sees Han, and Han is like, how could you? And they have like a whole drama about how he's essentially killed his mother and what that means for the family. And then if Quinton was like, Han's dead, I'd be like, dude, like, that's enormous fan stuff. Like, this is important drama that's happening here. This stuff matters much more about the characters.
Besides, I'm having fun.
Yeah, I'm having fun watching this. I mean, yeah, okay, Han died, but does that really matter? Ask yourself. It's fan stuff. It's just world rules that apparently when you die, you stay dead.
Just fan stuff.